Hello everyone, this is our next video of Fortinet NSE 4 series, and today video we are going to understand that service objects, network objects on the FortiGate firewall. So to navigate the objects, network objects, service objects, we need to click policy and object section. So let's open this policy and object section. So here we have the addresses, services. So in the today video, we will understand that addresses as well as the services, how we will create the address object as well as the service object, and using this service object and like network objects, we'll create a policy also. We'll see the policies creation also. So first thing, let's try to create a addresses. So let's to create address, we have a two option. First one is the address and second is the address group. So first I will create the address. So here we have to define the name. So let's say name could be any test, or for this network I will say LAN. To better understand LAN, what will be the IP? 0.100 or 0.0/24. So any name we can type here, and also we have option to change the color also, whatever color is required, so we can change to the color. Second thing, third, we have that options what type of network address we need to create: subnet, IP range, FQDN, geography, dynamic, and device map. So generally it is used subnet, IP range, and FQDN. These three is the most commonly used. So let's first create the subnet. So subnet, what we will create: 192.168.0.0/24. First thing, R 1.0/24. Let's create object for 1.0/24. If I create this way, it will become the network. This will be the full network object, and let's save it. First thing, first type will be the network, LAN network, which is showing here also. Second type will be the, in this type I will say range. So I will say, I will type a name LAN range. LAN range. So here what I have to define: 192.168.1.40. Let's say 10 IP we need to select 1.50. So using this we are creating a range object. So from 40 to 50, 10 IPs will be considered if I use this object in any policies. Two things has been done, and now we can simply create OK. So we created a subnet and we created range. Third will be the FQDN. Let's say here I will say example kind of that, or test.com. Name could be anything. Here I will say test.com. So this will be the FQDN type. This is also done. And if I say geographic, then we have to select the countries. And if you want to use that particular subnet is we consider only on specific interface, we can select also that port 1, port 0, that we can also select it. But the best practice will be that it should be the any, so that you will not face any kind of issues. If required, we can write the comment also, and if required, we can create the static route, but it is, don't create from here. We'll take a separate session on the routing, then we'll discuss the routing parts. So for the addresses thing, we can create by this subnets as well as the range and FQDN. So these are the mostly uses. And geographic, you need to select the countries, and these are the some other way of objects. And the second will be the address group. So in the address group, we have to type the name. Let's say LAN groups. So LAN group, here we have to add the members. So members, what I will add, LAN range, and let's say I will add that wildcard also, which we just created this test. So this we have added. If you see there is an exclamatory sign, it means that this domain is not resolvable at this moment. It is not resolved as of now because of the internet connectivity. So now we created that group, and this group will be visible here. If I show, this will be the groups which we created, and this is the object we created. So, and this is the FQDN we created. So this is done, and we created addresses, we created address groups, and now there is another thing, that is service, basically the protocols. So how we can create, and one thing also we can select that this is the IP range. Using that plus minus icon, we can see that minimize and maximize this. If I say select this one like this, we can edit, definitely we can edit it, we can clone it, it is working. Now there is a one more thing, that service. So let's create the service objects. So these are some by default categories: general, file access, web, email also, and so on. If I go down, the others are also there. So the requirement is here to create a custom protocols which is not part of this like available protocol. So create that, we need to create a service. Service means that protocols, port numbers, kind of that. Here we will set test service or port, or I will say the port. I will say the color. What will be the color? Color will be the orange. Any color which you want, you can choose it. We have to select that. So service and service list. If you know that this protocol belongs to which kind of technology, like if you have a network services, we can categorize based on that, general or file access authentication. We can leave as uncategorized also. This is also fine. So if you are familiar with that, you can select general. Here you have to define, let's say 9000. Or so if any website working on the 9000 port, then you can select that TCP, UDP or SCTP. You want to add TCP and UDP, you can add both, like TCP 9000 and UDP 5000. If required, we can specify the source port, but although it is not recommended because source port will be the always random. So if it's required, we can specify the source port also. What will be the source port? Using this specify source port option. If we want, we can define the IP addresses, but for the service object, it is better, or it is recommended that you only define the port numbers on these sections and define the TCP and UDP, and okay. So this is the first step to create a protocols or port numbers. Where it will be visible? It will be visible on the generals. I selected the general. So let's open that general. Yeah, it is there only first in front of the screen. There is the option that categorize setting. If we want that particular category need to move up, we can create it. If also it is required, we can create a new categories also and put that our newly created instances on the category. That can be also do. And another way of these services, service objects we created, and if you have that in case of destinations, you have, let's say, 8000 to 9000 port numbers, we can specify this thing also. And if you have a one static port numbers like only 8000 or 9000, then we can only select that 8000. And in the case second will be the service group. So group is a combination of two things. So I have created test and I will add that any kind of 2-3 objects to show that. Let me create the service group. So creating a service group, here we have to define the service group. Give me a minute. Here we have to define the service group. And here I can add that, let's say any two ports, let's say TCP, FTP, SMB, FTP. So we can add it as per the requirements and we can create. So using this, we can create the service groups. Category, it is like I show that we can create these categories just like a file access, general, remote access. We can create our custom category also. Let's say we have any database server, we can say that databases is like we can type that database and save it. Like this, all protocols will be on the database category. So it will show here that database will be here. So using that categorization means that separates of the protocol. So we can create that. If we not define that anything, it will show on the uncategorized. During the creation of the service object, it was visible. I think we can create the database and put it on the, that is also fine. That just relocating the thing. So using that, we can create the custom categories. And if we go to that service, here we have the option to click a database and just type that any test policy, and let's say define the 7000, and then so it is comes on the database. It is visible also. Now we have understand that addresses, we created that address and address groups. We have created that service and service group in categories. There is another thing, that internet service database. So this is the custom database provided by the Fortinet. So it is randomly updated. We can use this internet service database on the policies also. So I will show that where we can use it once we have a detailed session on the policy part. So where we need to apply this, whatever we created, we just create the firewall policy, select the firewall policy, create a new policy. Name, we have to define any incoming interface I will take, any outgoing interface I will take. What will be the source? So we created that LAN range. First was that, second was the LAN range. So two things we created there. So that in the case of destination, let's say we select that LAN group. So what about the services? So we created the service. I think this was the service 7000 for the database. We created the service. And if required, we can select the other also. Those are the pre-builds, and we have one our custom built that test. It is also available. So we can modify this object from policy level itself. So using that objects, we can create a policy and to take a required actions. So just so that now it is clicked, and we have created one policy using that custom addresses and services we just created, and using that we created this policy. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed very well. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button and subscribe the Firewall experts for this kind of videos. Thanks for watching.